Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Bill Boorman, or at Bill Boorman, as I'm more commonly known. If you're on the door, we've got. If you're on the door, we've got loads of room to just let people come in. Don't worry about stopping them. Right? I'm going to be speaking this afternoon for the next 30 minutes about social sourcing, which is basically the age-old thing for any agency recruiter. How do we find the candidates? Where are the candidates hiding? My background is I worked in and around recruiting, including being a training director for a national recruitment business for about 20 years, then made the decision to move into training and had a very traditional training business, nothing technical about it at all, very normal recruitment training, the kind of thing you'd be used to, which I did for 4 really successful years and one really crap one. And the really crap one hurt a lot, and that was really when the recession came along and there was no work about. So I was in a situation where, having always been busy, always had a full diary, I was waking up in the morning with absolutely nothing to do, an empty diary, which was kind of fairly depressing. And my office is in my house, so I was faced with 2 choices, and those 2 choices were either to do a bit of gardening, prompted by my real boss, do a bit of gardening and DIY, which I'm not very good at, or pretend to be busy. So the best thing I thought to do is pretend to be busy, and the easiest way to do that was in social media, was to sit down for 8 or 10 hours a day and just start having a look at this Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of thing. And I had no real design of where it was going to lead. Now, kind of 3 years on, if you believe these things, there's a tracker index that ranks me as the 3rd most influential online recruiter in the world. I speak at about 40 different events globally, as well as running my own events around the world about recruiting and recruiting technology. I used to have a real job, now I just do stuff I get paid for, which is kind of nice. And it all comes down from just trying to basically understand that most of this social stuff's quite simple. And I'm ultimately really a recruiter, so I look at everything from a recruiting point of view, about how is it useful, how are the tools useful. I work now with product companies like Colleague, who are here, and I'm on the stand at the moment if anyone wants to come and have a chat at any point, and RollPoint, which is a social referral technology company. I work with product and advising companies. And I ended up here really just knowing nothing and saying, let's just be really inquisitive about it, let's not be frightened. And you need to learn certain things about any kind of technology, which is, number 1, you're not going to break it. Number 2, somebody has been more stupid than you have. And that's kind of the 2 rules, because they're the 2 things that stop you doing things. And I just went and explored. I now work with sources in the US and other parts of the world. I'm going to speak a little bit more about the role of a sourcer in a minute. But our job is basically to find anyone or any type of candidate on the web. To find anyone, to find out where they are, connect them, reach out and message them. And it's actually possible. You might remember years ago they used to talk about, there's even a whole advert campaign about it at the moment, 6 degrees from bacon, which is everybody is connected within 6 degrees, which means if you asked everyone you knew, it's just in the past we would have done that offline, if you ask everyone you know if they can introduce you to someone, and they ask everyone they know, and they ask everyone they know, and so on and so on, by the time 6 rows of people have done the asking by multiplication, you will reach anybody in the world. You're connected to anyone in the world. Through social media now, that's actually 3. So I've called this, and I've proved this a few times, so I've called this sourcing presentation 3 degrees from Boorman, which basically means everyone in the room, whether you knew me before or not, is connected with me at maximum 3 degrees. Which tells me every time I have a job to fill or a requirement, I'm 3 people away from finding the person that I want. I'm 3 pieces of data or 3 pieces of information. And when we look at it, I will say in this presentation, if anyone has any questions, shout them out. If there's anything you disagree with, like you think what I'm saying is rubbish, then please do that as well. I enjoy that quite a lot. Please don't stand on formality, and if you really actually meant to sign up for something else because you thought you were in the awards dinner downstairs, feel free to stand up and walk out, and I won't be offended by that. I've got fairly broad shoulders. Since 1991, people have been leaving digital footprints. 1991 was when the web was launched, and from that time, people have been leaving clues as to who and what they are. So our job as sources is to find those digital footprints, to find the places where people are. But this was really accelerated when 6 Degrees was launched in 1997. 6 Degrees was the first social media site. So we're not talking about lots of years ago. But that's when the first social media site was launched, when people actually started to use the web a lot more than a repository of information. You also started getting instant chat, sites like ICQ and things like that. So it's happened in everybody's time. And later came along, first of all, LinkedIn, and then Facebook and Twitter, and all of these social places where constantly people were leaving footprints and clues as to what and who they were. Our job is actually to find and reach those people. So let's talk about the way that most recruitment businesses are run. And most recruitment businesses, in honesty, are running probably about 15 years out of date in terms of the model. And I'll gladly discuss that later. But the best most recruitment businesses have for finding people is a resourcer, a model of a resourcer. Let's have a look at what a resourcer does in a traditional recruitment business. A resourcer searches for CVs. They go to CV databases, or they go to LinkedIn and they use LinkedIn as a CV database, as a profile repository. And who in here is actually active on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn account generally? Yeah, most of the room. Who's got Monster CV database or another CV database? Most of you. And most of you will be recruiting for roughly the same things and finding roughly the same people, which puts you in a position that the only thing you can do is be in a foot race, which is try and be first rather than try and be best, because it is who gets first to the candidates and puts them out. And that's because we're actually looking for CVs. We're looking for the obvious. We're looking for the people holding up the sign saying, I'm looking for a job. And we're not looking around the edges as everybody else is there. Because we're all fishing in the same pond, and we're actually all catching the same active fish. So what do the inactive fish do who are not really looking for a job? I spent some time in Google 3 weeks ago talking to people at Google, and they said the first thing we do with our LinkedIn profile is we make it indistinguishable. So you can't find us. And I said, and why do you do that? And they said, because recruiters ring us all the time. Because I get 50 emails. My inbox is full of people offering me the next opportunity. Somebody told me about they changed one part of their profile to say they'd got a qualification in C++ engineering, and they received 70 calls within the hour, messages on their phone. And so what they do is they go into hiding. They say, I'm here, I'm not really looking for a job. So who are the people who we find? The people who want to be found. And who are the people who want to be found? The unemployed and the unemployable, generally. The people we don't want to find are the people who we end up with, right, in terms of candidates. And that's why we talk about there being quality, or we talk about things like there being a talent shortage. There's not a talent shortage at all out there, right? All the skills we need are out there. They're just hidden. They're just hard to find, or they're not actually looking for a job right now. Our job is to go and find them and do the magic bit. The resourcer in most businesses is a junior recruiter role. You go and you become quite good at finding candidates, and when you're quite good, we make you a consultant. It's generally the model. Once you've got good at your job, we'll promote you to one you're not very good at for a while. And then when you manage a level of competence at that, we'll make you a manager, and you won't be very good at that, and then we'll make you an area manager, and a regional manager, and a director. I know this because I've done all that, and my level of incompetence meant I could be promoted. And that's kind of the way that we work. That we view the resourcing and the candidate side of our business as being the very junior business, because that's not where the checks are. The real guys are the hunters. They're the sales guys, the consultants. And we work from CV databases, and we use LinkedIn as a CV database and very little else. So that's kind of the old model, and some people in the room may work slightly differently. I just want to get you to think about it. And let's think about then what a sourcer does, what a dedicated sourcing professional is in terms of running a business. A sourcer searches for people, they don't search for CVs. So they're looking for people, they're looking for where people are. And they're not looking in the obvious places. We're looking in the unobvious places. A sourcer is an expert at data mining, because that's really what the internet is. The internet is a whole collection of data, clues, footprints everywhere that we need to mine. Because if I can find one data point that indicates to me
You might be of a profession or know somebody or be connected to someone. That leads me to another data point and another data point, and so I build my picture. And I do it quite easily, because the internet actually makes it quite easy to find this stuff when you know how to look at it, and when you stop thinking about looking for CVs or for the obvious. What I want to do as a sourcer is I want to find a unique pool. I don't need the biggest pool. I don't need volume. Volume is really not important. Lots of recruitment businesses have been run by volume matrix in terms of candidates, because we've had to have a lot of rubbish in order to find a few good people. And so we've driven everything around how can we attract the most in the top of the funnel in order to end up with the smallest amount. I actually turn the funnel on its head and say I just want to find 1 or 2 people and then open it up. That's kind of how I think and how I search. And what I'm looking for is unique pools. I'm not looking for the most people, I'm just looking for the people that nobody else is finding. Because I want to be having conversations with those people. The people who are outside, the people who are registered in different places. I'm more likely to use Yahoo as a search engine than Google. Not because Yahoo is better than Google, but because everyone else is using Google, at best. I'm more likely to search LinkedIn through Bing, because everybody else is searching through LinkedIn. And I want to look for a different point. This is the way in which we think. I'm not looking at what everyone else is doing, I'm looking at what I'm doing. The people that I employ to be sourcers, and I know some people have built some great teams, the teams they've built will have no sourcing experience, they'll just be really nosy people. They'll actually want to sniff around and get into stuff and look behind the corners and think quite logically. And they'll be allowed to learn by doing rather than by being trained in a very fixed way of doing things. So open it up and say, let's go and find inquisitive. There is no best practice in this. Everything is test practice. So we just go, and when we're hiring for sources within the businesses I work with, we just give them something and say, go find it and see what you do, and see where you look. Sometimes they look in places I wouldn't, because I want people who are wired different. I want all my sources looking in different ways. I don't want them coming up with the same candidates. I want to find unique candidates that we can have unique relationships with, because that's actually really where the value in the business is. If I can come up with people that nobody else can, I hold the market. That's the key. Whereas we're in a market at the moment where we all come up with the same people. So we have to be quickest or cheapest. That's kind of what the model has to be. Right? So, and I don't really like that model very much. It's searching dynamic real-time data. So it's searching things as they happen. A CV database by nature is out of date the day you submit a CV. So most people have built their data, even in your own business. Most of you will be contacted with every candidate you will ever need to be contacted for every job you're ever going to get. But you can't search your data. Either because you don't know how to search your data, or you haven't organised it in a way that for retrieval. What you've done is you've stored it for 7 years because the law tells you you have to do that. So you've made it a legal database. And that's where the value has come in your recruitment business in the past. The more candidates you have in the database, the more valuable your recruitment business is. And that's how you've stored it. So everything that you've stored has been for information storage and not information retrieval. But what I need is real-time retrieval. And I need some intelligence in that, because I need my technology, or the way I use my technology, to search in the way that I would as a person. I need it to be very human. So but I could be assumptive about it. And I'll give you a great example. Business I was with a few weeks ago, we're doing a search for somebody with 4 years experience of Python programming, and they were searching in their database for 4 years experience of Python programming and returning nobody. When I actually said, okay, why don't we look for all the CVs we got 4 years ago that had Python experience on, and make an assumption that they're still doing the same thing, and reach out to those people and find out, we were suddenly able to generate loads of candidates. Say, but we never got anything out of the database when we thought like that. Another great example was another business that I was working with was having real trouble coming up with German speakers. Real trouble coming up with German speakers, because every search that they did required German speaking as part of the keywords that they were looking for. Obviously there's quite a few people who live in Germany that speak German. But everybody made the assumption that actually, how many of you actually have English spoken on your CV? Probably only if you're looking for a job abroad, right? So sometimes it's logical of thinking, what are we doing in our searches that don't work? Let's have a look at it and let's start examining that. And let's start searching real-time data. Let's start doing that. Let's start searching in a way that generates results that we need, in places that we need. And let's combine sources. Let's look in lots of different corners and lots of different parts of the web, because we can, with technology, we can do that very, very easily. Let's go beyond LinkedIn. Let's not just run our recruitment businesses on a recruiter license in LinkedIn, because that's what everyone else is doing. There's loads of stuff you can do at LinkedIn, by the way, that you probably don't, that make LinkedIn the most effective organised professional data. Right? So I love the chat. You know, I'm not anti. I'm just saying, if everybody's doing the same thing, if everybody's messaging the same, biggest complaint from candidates, we'll say, what do you do when you, how do you kill a group? You invite recruiters to join. How do you kill a community? You invite recruiters to come along. Because all they do is send us jobs, and the jobs are never what we're any good for anyway, so it has no value. Because what used to happen, what did we do as recruiters with LinkedIn is, we used to have post and pray. We used to say, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to post all our jobs to the job boards, and we're going to wait and see what comes back. And then LinkedIn came along, and we went, actually, we could do something with this, because it's kind of free. So what are we going to do is, we're not going to post and pray, we're going to source and spray. So we're going to search for everyone we can, we're going to send them all an email. Same email, doesn't matter what they do, we're not going to look into their profile. And so the candidates got fairly fed up with this. So I want to say, right, let's go beyond LinkedIn, let's think about where else can we go. Let's start just basic searching techniques in recruitment businesses. Searching Google Advanced Search, that's your starting point, that's where you begin. Google Advanced Search means you don't have to remember technical stuff like operator. Google's, I think some of you were in the presentation when I was talking about core tools earlier, core recruiting tools. And basically, the way I was taught by a guy called Ivan Stevanovic, who's he's actually called Irish Recruiter from Croatia in Dublin, works for a company called CPL. And he explained Google to me. He's a very, very clever SEO man. And he said, if you want to find anything out on Google, you've got to talk to Google like he's a bloke. And you've got to think of Google as a bloke, and that means you need to give him really simple instructions, one at a time. And you have to nag him every so often to make sure it gets done. And you also have, but you need to talk to him like it's a bloke. You need to ask questions of Google in the way you would. And if I was one bloke talking to another bloke, I wouldn't go up and go, C++ programmer, next keyword, next keyword, next keyword. I'd say, where are the C++ programmers at? And they might tell me. And that's the way in which you work Google. And there are operators that help you to build strings to do that, but you don't actually have to remember them, because Google have a free function called Google Advanced Search, which is basically a form that you fill in that says what words do you want, what sites do you want them from, where do you want them, what do you want to go and find, and then you just search on that and it gives you stuff back. Gives you the information back you want. I was searching for Python programmers the other day for somebody. I was in San Francisco and said, Python programmers in London, we can't find any. I said, well, do you want to start with CVs and then we'll work from there? And they said, yeah, I quite like to work from CVs. We did a search, curriculum vitae, Python programmer, also CV, Python not snake. That was quite important that we put that in. Otherwise it would confuse the result. And we've got a form that we fill in. So we just filled it in logically, answered the questions, said what sites we wanted to look at. It returned, and we only wanted CVs that had been put on the web within the last 3 months, gave us 400 CVs back instantly of people who were current and met our criteria. Just by filling, so it's kind of like a search form. It says, what are you looking for? That's Google Advanced Search. If you don't know anything else, do that. That gets you started. Then start looking at other search engines. Yahoo, Bing, Lycos, Ask Jeeves, right? All of these search engines, they won't get you the best results, but they'll get you different results because nobody else is looking there. And so it's thinking about different places to look, and then setting listening and alert tools. When this bit of information is found on the web, update me, tell me about it. So bring it, connect it with this other bit of data. And what you're searching for is geek words and phrases, not job titles. Right? You search Twitter or any of those sites based on job titles, it will return you recruiters. If you search for C++ programmer, it will give you everyone in London who recruits C++ programmers and no C++ programmers. Because C++ programmers don't want to be found. They know they're very employable. and they're not really looking for a job. They're always interested in stuff, but they're not really looking. So they're hiding. They're going, right, what do I want to do? I want to hide my detail. What do? People speaking geek words. You need to know the geek word of the industries that you're in. It doesn't matter what you are. And for recruitment, as recruiters, we have geek words. We have words that you could walk into a bar and you could hear people saying things and straight away you'll go, that's a recruiter. Because we will hear text, what people say, and context, the way in which they say it. So for instance, I'll hear people chatting and they might say, send out. And I know that doesn't mean I'm sending out for a curry, that means I arranged an interview last week, because that's the language that I'm used to. That's a geek word for the recruitment profession. So what I do is, for the professions we recruit in, we talk to the people who do those jobs and identify what are the geek words. What are the things that one programmer says to another, one call handler says to another. What are the things that they say, might be products that they talk about, or words, or programming languages, or whatever it is, that they say that enable us to identify them from content, what they are. And then we search for those. That's what we're searching for. Show me the content. Because if I can see the content, I'm actually seeing conversations between people. And I can connect them and very quickly find out who they are by profiling them in other places. So I'm searching for geek words and phrases in context rather than job titles. Moving on. So let's start looking at some of the channels and where we can search for stuff. Some of the tools. I'm going to start with Twitter. Right, Twitter's brilliant for finding people. Twitter has quite a few purposes. It's a great engagement place. Put simply, Twitter changed the way people network because it's the easiest place you can talk to strangers. Right, that's what Twitter is. It's the channel where you can go and talk to a stranger. You can introduce yourself and it's not, that's what it's built for. It's not rude. Before then, everything was about invites. You had to know people. LinkedIn, Facebook, all those kind of channels. If you wanted to speak to someone, you had to ask for a connection and you had to know them and all that kind of stuff. But Twitter changed that. It just said, you want to talk to someone, you want to follow someone, just go and do it. You want to listen in on people's conversations, you go and do that. You want to get in all over the place, you do that. So Twitter is where it started, and Twitter's a great place to search for geek words. Search in Twitter through any of the applications like Social Bro, or even Twitter itself, or TweetDeck. You put the keyword combinations that you want anywhere. You can also tie it down to location, so you could say, I want to find people who are talking about this, but I only want them from Shrewsbury, because I'm hiring Shrewsbury, picking it randomly. And it will also do it locationally. So it's very, very easy to search in this stuff for geek words by location. Really pinpoint the people who are having conversations online about the things that you are, the things that identify them. And there's lots of other places I'm going to show you and ways of doing that. Now, to do that, I want a tool that organises it and makes it simple and also something that's free. So I use TweetDeck. You can use Hootsuite or anything else. Why do I use TweetDeck? TweetDeck lets me organise people into 50 columns. Because the best thing Twitter is brilliant for is Twitter is the best stalking channel. It's the best stalking channel. It's the best way for organising people into groups and seeing everything that they're talking about at one time. Because we do that through Twitter lists, not through followers. Followers and following and engagement, all that kind of stuff, that has a different place in terms of what you're trying to achieve. In terms of recruiting, we set up Twitter lists of people of very specific disciplines. So for instance, in Oracle, who I work with in Dublin, in the recruiting team, we have 40 lists of all the competitors by discipline. So we'll go Dell C++ programmers, these people, because we've found them and qualified them and we've put them in a Twitter list. Because what we can then do is take that Twitter list and put it in a single column in TweetDeck. This is a column, and I can put any list in. So I can say, right, this list, which is headed people I'm going to headhunt from Dell, if they go in there, that means they work, I've found them by content, identified they work in Dell, might be that they've checked in. I'm just going to watch what they do. I'm going to watch what they do, because these are people I recruit. If you do any recruiting in technical, there's two things you can guarantee when you're hiring programmers. And other disciplines are different. I'm just going to talk about programmers for a minute. There's two things that they always do and they always talk about. Number one is coffee. Always talk about coffee. And they drink a lot of coffee because they work funny hours. Number two, they check in everywhere, so they tell you where they're going. So if I give you an example of how we use that, by having a list of all the people working at Dell, nobody tweet this by the way, it's time secret. By having a list of all the people who worked at Dell, and then searching just for the check-ins, because we knew they were programs, we were able to identify which Starbucks they used, what time they were most likely to be in there, what they were most likely to be ordering, so we could target ads at them if we wanted to, and we were able to take an ad on the bus stop outside the Starbucks that they all go to, basically saying, if you're fed up with this, come and have a coffee with us, with a big cup of coffee and just a QR code on the bottom. Really successful recruiting campaign. I would never bus stop advertise normally, but I was able to say that's where these people are going to be at this time. I also know as a recruiter, if I know somebody is in my target audience, I will talk to them. Right? If you know somebody's potentially a good candidate or client for you, you will talk to them about anything. You don't care if it's X Factor or football or whatever it is. You'll have a random conversation with them if that's what they're talking about, because you'll reach a point in that conversation or at some point when you're going to be on their radar, they're going to be on yours. So if I've got a list of everyone who I know is target audience, and they're talking about X Factor, guess what? I'm the biggest X Factor fan in the world. I'll go join that conversation. Because that's how we start. Because when you go to a network, you know, the way in which you understand Twitter is like this. Twitter is the law of the pub. And I've spent years researching this, so I understand pub etiquette. This is why I'm quite good at Twitter. And what the law of the pub is if I told you, if you recruit accountants, and I said, right, every Tuesday night in that pub just over the road, the Windsor Castle, whatever it is auditors' night. And every Wednesday night, auditors get half-price beer. If you recruited auditors, you'd go, right, I'm going to that pub every Wednesday because it's going to be full of candidates or clients. That's where I'm going. And off you'd go every Wednesday. Now, if you walked in and the first thing you said to everyone is, I'm a recruiter, I'm a hiring, can I tell you about a job? I've got a job that's perfect for you. Before I know anything about you. They're going to throw you out really quickly. Apart from, they're going to say to you, go and talk to John in the corner. He'll talk to you about a job because he's unemployable. We'll recommend him to you. Go speak to him because we don't know. That's what happens. Because this is how Twitter works, right? Twitter is the law of the pub. So what you do is you go in and you go, as you do at any networking event, you'll go through a dancing phase where you'll kind of introduce it to each other, you'll talk to each other, you're finding a common ground on which you can introduce yourself, at which point somebody's going to say, what do you do? Another rule of the pub that works with Twitter is in my pub that I go to for research purposes, there's 30 or 40 people who have a drink, and everyone has a nickname, right? There's taxi driver, he's a taxi driver, that's not surprising. Bedwetter, he's an accountant, that's a whole different story. And a whole load of other people. And if someone is introduced to you as John or Brian, you generally don't speak to them. So it's the people with the nicknames that you talk to who are interested. And Bedwetter, who's an accountant, I don't go and see him every night, every time I see him in the pub and say, tell me about Bought Ledger. Come on, I really want to know about this stuff. Tell me about tax. That really excites me. Once a year I get a tax return. Straight away I'll go, right, Wetter, well, let me buy you a beer in the back. Tell me about how I do a tax return. And he'll tell me how to do it. He'll say, look, if you want to do it, go and do it. And I'll go, yeah, that's great, but I trust you. You're my mate. You're not going to rip me off. Tell me how much it is. Go and do it for me. Because it's someone in my circle, in my community, who's on my conscience, who 90% of the time we talk about irrelevance, but he's my go-to guy when I need tax. And I have an electrician and a plumber and everybody else who does the same stuff. What my job as a recruiter is to be the go-to guy about jobs when you want me. The rest of the time we have normal conversations about normal stuff. That's sometimes what's difficult for recruiters in sourcing and Twitter. Right? Because we think every conversation we have has to be about a job. It has to have a clear end result. We don't understand that the return on investment comes from the return on irrelevance. Because that's how relationships work. They come from the crap that you talk about, not the business stuff. Because you build trust that way. I use applications to help me find the right people, to make sure if I'm going to spend time talking to them that they are actually in the right audience. They could have a value to me. And kind of applications I use, Social Bro helps me find people anywhere on the web and pinpoint them and put them in a Twitter list. I Tweet Live lets me find people, lets me find tweets and reply to those tweets. I can reply to 5 at a time, 1 at a time. These are all free applications, by the way. Falcon.io, which is this one. I love this one at the moment. This is it. We've also built a similar toolbar for colleague, if anyone wants to come on the stand and download it later. But what Falcon.io lets you do is on Twitter, you can hover over any name and it will show you the social connections, LinkedIn connection, Facebook, little combined profile. So anyone who you find in your searches, just go and say, who are they? Show me an aggregated profile, and it does that for you, and it's free. So you can very quickly follow them or jump into their LinkedIn profile or go somewhere else and have a look. Triangulate is another one I really like. It's back to this 3 degrees from Boorman thing. What Triangulate does is if I put another Twitter name in Triangulate, it tells me the people we have in common. So who is the closest person to you, who's closest to me? It bases the closest person based on the number of interactions. So if you're tweeting with someone and you quite often tweet them, almost on a personal message, so Mike's in the front row, Mike Taylor from Web-Based Recruiting. If you tweet Mike as @MikeTaylor and I tweet Mike and I want to contact you, it will say the best person for me to go through is Mike. Mike will be able to introduce you because they have a relationship. So it's really good for me to find people who I want, who I don't know, and say, is there anyone in our network who's in the middle? Do we share any lists? Do we share any profiles? Are we connected with people? Are we close to similar people? So Triangulate is absolutely brilliant for that. I found someone. My challenge is how do I message them? How do I reach them without them just trying to shut the door on me as a recruiter? Because finding's easy. Messaging is a bit more complicated. Let's talk about Facebook, because people have real different mixed feelings about Facebook, being the friendly chat. Let me tell you, everybody lives on Facebook. Nobody lives on Facebook looking for a job. 65% of the population, 80% of the internet population spend a minimum of 4 hours a day connected to Facebook in one way or another. It's on their phone right here. It's the life channel. It's where people do everything. And I can find people now. Open Graph Search lets me find friends of friends, pictures of friends, lets me do any of that stuff. So Open Graph Search makes it very easy for me to find people. I can also use Friend Finder, so you know, if I know one person who works at a company, you know where it says Find Friends, Advanced Search, top left-hand corner, drop it down, search for colleagues of this person with this job title. About 40% of people have professional information on their Facebook profile. Makes it very, very easy to search and identify people. It's unstructured data, so it's not like LinkedIn. It's not easy to search. I need to look for it in different ways. But Open Graph Search really helps me find. I could say, if I know that you're a Python programmer, I can say, find Python programmers who are friends with this Python programmer who I know. Find pictures of Python programmers who are friends of this Python programmer I know. And it will give me those results back in search as a starting point. Then what I want to do is say, now, I'm not going to message you directly, I want to find who do we know, who's the second degree in the equation to help me reach the 3 degrees from Boorman. So that's what I use Friend Finder for. Every single person who has a Facebook account has an @Facebook email, they just don't know it. And most people's @Facebook email defaults into their personal email inbox. So if you ever want to reach someone, you don't know how to reach them, send them an @facebook.com. Put their name in, @facebook.com, 80% of them end up in their email box. Dead simple. You know, anyone they've got a Facebook account, they've got an email address. It's very easy to think, right, how is this person connected? And when it ends up in their home email box, or probably it ends up on their mobile, because 75% of emails get answered on mobile, then that's where it ends up. I can look at things like, likes. Who likes? Who would like this? Tell you just a real quick side story, which is a kind of a sourcing story. But there was somebody who I knew in Northampton who actually had one of those conversations and said, I know I'm not supposed to ask you, but, and you know roughly what comes next, I need to hire some women. We need to talk about what that might be for first, but I need to hire some women to work 4 hours an evening in a contact centre. He said, not necessarily women, but it's almost definitely women with a couple of children. How do I do that? The way in which we were able to source that was said, okay, let's think about it. Let's think about it in a different way. What is likely to combine these people? What was likely to combine these people was they almost definitely drank when they were 15 years old in a club called Ritz's. It was almost definitely where they met their husband. And we also had a timeline, because it was in Northampton and it was pulled down to build the Northampton Saints ground. So we set up a group called Fans of Ritzies. And we targeted people with invites based on the fact that they were in Northampton, they had children that were a certain age, and said, do you remember Ritzies? Come and have a look at this. Come and have a look at this group, post pictures, share it with your friends. It's even better now with Facebook graph search. We were able to get 700 people join that group and put it up with content. Then we started putting jobs into that group and we filled all those jobs from target audience. Because we thought about what would be the thing that connects people that we're trying to hire with what we're trying to hire for. What would they do? Would they go to, so things like searching universities and colleges and all that kind of stuff it is really effective. So, and thinking about the intro approach, getting introduced by other people, targeted advertising and personal profiling is what works. You've then got Google Plus, right? Google Plus is the new kid on the block. Every recruiter should have a Google Plus account. If they don't, they're fairly irrelevant, because Google Plus is SEO, right? So if you've got a website and you haven't got Google Plus, you're dropping down the Google rankings, because Google promotes products which are linked to Google products. Dead simple. Dead simple. It's built for search, because the guys at Google built it and that's what they're good at. It supports other Google products like Gmail and stuff, and you know, I'm looking now that all recruitment businesses should push everything through Google Drive, because it gives you all your word processing capability, your spreadsheets, your presentations, everything that you want actually lives in Google Drive. Hangouts and Circles, and it's the growing network. It's the one that's really growing, because anyone who has a Google profile or any Google product has a Google Plus account, but they just don't know it yet. It's already been created, and it's very, very easy to search and very rarely closed. LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn and you're a recruiter and you don't use LinkedIn Signal, you're an idiot. Apologies for that, because that's probably nearly everyone. But LinkedIn Signal is the most valuable part of your LinkedIn network, because LinkedIn Signal will search all of your connections and your connections and your connections and your connections for 6 degrees for anything you want to search it for in terms of updates. People changing jobs, leaving jobs, people creating opportunities. You want sales opportunities? Set an alert in LinkedIn Signal for people changing job, because you know wherever they change a job from, there's a job. And you can set in job titles, keywords. I have no idea why we aren't all over this in the recruitment business, because LinkedIn Signal is made for sourcing. Google Image Search is another one I'll tell you about, because Google Image Search, right, people will lock all of their Facebook down, sometimes their LinkedIn down and everything else. If I want to find someone on LinkedIn, very often the best place for me to search for is in Google Image, because their picture is tagged to their profile. And I can find the LinkedIn pictures that I want by searching in Google Image and open it up. By the way, if you find a LinkedIn profile which you can't see, you can trick LinkedIn, and no one here from LinkedIn is it? You can trick LinkedIn very easily just by putting the surname after linkedin.com/surname, and then it shows you the account, whether you're 3rd degree, 4th degree connection or not. Professional account. So search for people in Google Images. Search for everyone in images. You know, sometimes you think logically, you think, right, okay, someone who does this job will have graduated from Edinburgh University in microphysics 4 years ago. Let's go search the graduation pictures. They're all over Google Images. They're all over Flickr. They're all over the web. That's the starting point I need to say, right, now I've found you, now let's go and find the other places that you are. Well, I found one person that went to that college, so who are their friends? Let's go and look at Facebook. Don't have to be friends to see who their friends are. Let's go and see who their friends are, because that's probably where their colleagues are connected with. Let's see where they work. That's kind of how we work footprints in data. Belong to 50 groups on LinkedIn, you just have to, and have a brilliant profile, because a profile is where people go back to, and a brilliant profile means start using things like embedded images. Now, if you're searching for a job, if you're searching on LinkedIn for a job, put that job on the profile, right? Put that job on your profile, because people want a reference point. Have a recruiter account and search LinkedIn through Bing. So other places for you to have a look at, and I'm going to have to wrap up in a second. Flickr, Instagram, Pinterest are all picture sites that are very easy to search and very searchable. Skype, you know, there's nearly as many Skype profiles as there are Facebook profiles. There's a phone number at the end of it. Nobody closes it down. It's very easy. You can search in Skype for people. who have profiles, who leave their professional details, and their calling card. WordPress, Foursquare, people check in, find out where they are. WordPress, Stack Overflow, if you do anything technical, is an essential. GitHub, My Social CV, forums, basically anywhere on the web. Make sure the messages you send are researched, so the relevant bit is real key. This is why I'm sending you this message, this is what's in your background, this is what brought you up. This is, and talk to people not about jobs, but having conversations. Send them a message to say, I'd like to have a conversation with you, can we talk? And have a brilliant profile yourself to back it up. And think about the next step. The next step for you, if you want to understand search, is sign up for Code Academy. It's the best way to learn Boolean search, and you'll learn it. Within an hour, you will be able to Boolean search like a wizard. And it's free. Code Academy. So just put all your recruiters on Code Academy. In the Java section, they will understand computer data better to be able to search it properly, and they'll be able to use Boolean strings. Use your imagination, learn by looking, work to a narrow funnel, so I actually only want to find one candidate and then work it out. I don't want to find 100 candidates and work it down to one. I want to do it the other way around. Have dedicated sources, text and context, intentional networking, and that will really take you forward. Because you're only 3 degrees away from me, so please connect with me in all the channels. I'll be here tomorrow on the colleague stand. I've also got a white paper on there if anyone wants to pick it up. What's the stand number?
112.
112. So if you want to pick up the white paper, it's on there. Thanks everybody, it's been great. Thank you.